Farm for Profit Podcast. Take a listen, have a blast. Farm for Profit Podcast. Learn about farming while having a laugh. Farm for Profit Podcast.
I could do one of their, what's the boron, what's the molybdenum, what's that product?
MO, Molly.
Boron Duo.
Boron Duo. Oh, Boron Duo.
XR5.
XR5 KSB.
KSB.
Right?
Good. Can't go wrong with that one.
I'm
I'm gonna have to give it like November Henry 802.
This is the XR5 KSB radio show. Morning.
I was going to say, now you're no longer a pilot and you're a radio show.
Yeah.
We could do it all.
Well, wherever we pick this up, listeners, thanks for joining us. If you got to listen to some of that, that's what it's like day 2 of Trade Show Morning. Glad to be sitting here in the AgX booth. Going to have a great conversation here, talking a lot about how important water is, and probably not the conversation that you're thinking we're going to have.
It's very important after a night of karaoke.
It is. What would be your karaoke song, Dave?
Oh, David Allen Coe, for sure.
Oh,
wow.
You never even call me by my name.
Yes.
Wow. I'm a Johnny Cash guy.
Yeah?
I like a duet
What's
if I can get my wife to go up.
What's that one song that you just tequila? That's it. That's all you say.
Tequila.
The Green Bus song in high school, right?
That's a me one.
We did not go karaoke last night. What were you guys singing?
We sang Simple Man,
Oh.
Leonard Skinner,
Yeah.
some Eagles, I think. And then, I sang the Jack Black Tenacious D tribute song.
Can't go wrong with a little Tenacious D.
Yeah.
I think we should hear a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe tonight. Maybe tonight.
Deal. Got it. Pixar didn't happen.
Well, that's a really fun opening to a pretty serious show.
It is. So if you want more shows like this, you got to send ideas to connect@farmprofit.com. Make sure you send us text messages and voicemails, 515-207-9640. And if you can't see us right now, go to YouTube, hit subscribe, and then you can, get to see our matching shirts.
Yeah.
You can also see us on Spotify. That's cool.
You can. It is. And coming soon to Apple Podcasts.
Video?
Da-da-da.
Oh, I feel like that's a release. That's like news I didn't know.
Yeah, it's news that not very many people know. We're going to
Apple's
be
tired
part
of
the
being left
trial.
behind.
We're going to be part of the trial of putting video out on
cool.
Apple Podcasts. So more to come. Hopefully it goes smoothly. If not, you can watch us on Spotify and YouTube.
YouTube.
We've got 2 friends here from AgX, and excited to have them back. Of course, one of them I think we've had on 1, 2, 3.
Too many times.
We have
12 times.
Dr. John.
But when you got a
Professor.
doctor in the
Doctor.
house,
Yes.
doctor.
And Caden. Right?
Just
Correct.
Caden.
Just Caden.
One name.
Karaoke Caden.
Well, we know John. So
There he
Caden,
goes, karaoke. Kate.
let's get a little background because we don't know Caden yet. Caden, who are you? What do you do for AgX? Where are you from?
I'm Caden Alexander. I'm a sales agronomist out of Nebraska. So I live up in northeast Nebraska, but I cover the whole state.
So you're like Ben Westendorf's counterpart? Is that what that would be?
He'd be our agronomist, yep. And I'm the sales to his brains. Yeah, I'm the talker.
okay.
So he's your boss.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
No? So, okay.
Oh, there you go.
You're his boss.
That's good. So do you like Nebraska?
I don't know any better. That's the only place I've ever been. So, yeah, I love it there.
It's fitting, though, that we're talking about water.
Yeah, I was gonna
'cause
say.
water's very big in Nebraska.
Yes.
Okay.
Water's a big deal in Nebraska.
I just realized that we started this show off wrong in so many different ways.
Why?
They're over there doing jumping jacks, getting ready to go for their show, and we didn't.
They sang way too long at karaoke last night. So they need
They're just going to bed.
Yeah.
Sorry, I digress. Great, Nebraska. So, did you grow up farm kid? Did you?
Yeah. Grew up small town on a small farm kind of thing, and went to school for that kind of thing, and ended up right back in that same hometown, and get to go hang out on the farm and help Dad out, and then do the AgX stuff during the day.
How long have you been with Ag Explorer?
Oh man, it's about 2 years, 1 year and a half now. Year and a half.
He
now.
looked at me like I know.
Yeah, I was looking at Zach. Yeah, about a year and a half.
We all have the same shirt. Oh, wait,
Yeah,
right.
everybody looks the same right now.
This is the debut of AgX's new shirts, and I don't think
Yep.
anyone has ever put a soybean flour on a shirt before. So
And whose idea was it? Oh, come on.
Tanner.
Nobody knows.
Nobody cares.
Must be the guy that asked the question.
Nobody cares. I ask all the questions. No.
Beans.
You know those everyday changes that you're making to boost your yield? They're actually improving your bottom line in multiple ways.
That's right, our friends at Onshore are here to help you grab the tax incentives that you qualify for, all while keeping your data right where it belongs, onshore.
They're here to help farmers identify and defend research and development tax credits using your real data. Learn more at onshore.com/farm-for-profit.
That's onshore.com/farm-for-profit.
All right, John, give a little. Our listeners probably know you, but if they haven't, to give a little background who you are, what you do for AgX.
Yeah, I'm an agronomist for Ag Explorer. Spent 18 years in higher ed, getting a chance to teach, and I like to tell people I lied to Tim and Gunny, our CEO and EVP, and they're stuck with me now. So I told them I could help them out, and now it's too late to do anything about it.
I think if they were up here, they'd say you've
They'd
done
agree.
more than help out. You've had a huge impact and been an extreme asset to our listeners as well.
Yeah, they were when we first started working with AgX. You were not on the team, but you were very much in their mind because they kept telling us about this guy that they were chasing. They wanted this guy, and they were going after him. They want him, and they finally got you. And I see why. Yeah, very educational.
So water, back to water. We've had a couple of episodes, had the pleasure with the Des Moines Waterworks and Central Iowa Waterworks to do an interview to try and address the topic of water quality when it comes to runoff and drinking water. We're not talking about that type of topic. We're talking about making sure that the expenses that we have, the inputs that we're purchasing and applying, are mixed with the right kind of water.
Yeah, I think it's something that's overlooked in the spray solution when people are doing their burn downs and their posts and their fungicides and all that. Because do you get it from the city? Do you get it out of a well? What kind? What's your pH? All that kind of stuff. So, John, why is that important?
Yeah, I mean, when we start talking about water, it's probably the least fun thing to talk about.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, as Kate and I were talking about earlier.
I mean, you guys don't
it's
sell water,
95% of your spray
right?
tank.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah.
We definitely don't sell water.
Yeah.
But it's 95% of your spray tank.
Okay.
But how often do we actually talk about it? No, I mean, we focus on, what's our tank chemistries that we're running? Then we get into what's the right adjuvant that we're supposed to put in there. And then normally we just kind of stop right there.
Yeah. Yep.
And we don't really focus on everything else that goes into it. And what I like to tell people is we have great tank chemistries. We do. No, I mean, but when you look at the cost that you have in your tank chemistries compared to what it's going to cost you to fix your water to make sure everything works right, you're talking percentages.
Yeah. Yep. So, Caden, what kind of water are you guys working with in Nebraska? Is it hard? Is it?
It's hard.
Yeah.
We've got hard water basically everywhere, and everything's 7.5 to 8 for a pH. That's pretty normal no matter where you go. You may get a little more iron in your water depending on where you're at, but a lot of calcium and higher pH for what we want. Yep.
So growing up, I always knew that we put just AMS in, right? Yeah. And I was always told that was to condition the water.
Yep.
I mean, let's go over some of the basics.
What is AMS?
Ammonium sulfate.
Sulfate.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
So what are some of the basics?
Yep.
And what are we looking for when we want to treat the water for a spray tank?
Yeah, definitely. And I want to jump on what Caden said, right? I mean, we get a chance with AgX to cover a lot of the United States. We've looked at hundreds of water samples. I mean, we've got some of our agronomists out here that we've looked at all of them, and rarely does a water sample not need condition in some way. Now, I mean, we've seen water pHs up to 9.1. Let that sink in for a second, and hardnesses of over 600. And so when we start thinking about, what do we need to take care of? The AMS is where we need to start, and we've used it, but we haven't always understood why we used it. And there's really more than one reason. So the first one is obviously taking care of our hard water. So we think AMS, right? AMS stands for ammonium sulfate. And we have it as the white granule, or you can melt it down and you can have it as a liquid. But you put it in the water, and it dissolves, and it breaks into two different components when you dissolve it in the water. It breaks into ammonium, and I hate chemistry, but these things we have to look at. It's NH4+, right? It has a positive sign to it. And then the sulfate is SO4, and it has a negative sign on there. And we've got to keep that in mind because it's the sulfate side that takes care of our hard water. Right. So, Caden, you were talking about the calcium.
Yep.
Right? So talk to me, when we put that in, when's that timing, and why do you want to put it in then?
Yeah, so the Wales, Dales mixing order, you get your water in there, and then you've got to get your AMS in the tank right away because the sulfate in there is going to bind with your calcium and your positively charged ions because a lot of our weak acid herbicides, they will get bound up with that if we don't bind them up first with that sulfate. So it's really important you get that in there first and get that right. If you don't get that right, everything else could be a waste, essentially.
Is the AMS soluble? Will it go into all the water? Do we need to mix it? How's that work?
Yeah, so I like to tell people, put as much of your your carrier in as you can. We're never going to get 100%. No, I mean, but if I can get guys to put 80 to 90% of that in there, then put your AMS in. A lot of labels, if you look at it, actually say to agitate it for 5 to 10 minutes, just because some of our loads can be fairly large, right? As we're thinking about thousands of gallons at a time, definitely want to make sure that we're agitating it through there.
How do you agitate yours?
Just by pumping it into the spray tank,
just
and then,
pumping it?
and then
Yeah.
your sprayer has an agitator too. That once it's so full, you can turn on. So you're agitating, so it's constantly mixing. But I want to talk about the actual water before we even treat it. I mean, there's different sources, right? Like, where are those hard waters coming from? Why is the pH high?
Yep. So this is the thing, is you can be on a well. We work with guys down in Florida that are pumping out of irrigation ditches. You can be pulling it out of city water or rural water, however you want to look at it. No one's taking care of your hard water side.
Yeah.
So pretty much the majority of the water that we look at is going to be hard water. USGS has published a really cool map that shows a distribution of water sources throughout the United States, and almost all of them are considered to be on the hard side.
And what's causing the hard? Is there metals? Is there heavy? All that kind of stuff.
Yep. So most of it, what we're dealing with is calcium, right? And I was doing a thing with my daughter, and she's 11, and she's like, "How can water be hard?" And it's almost a misnomer, right?
Yeah.
But it's just simply talking about those positively charged cations that Caden brought up, and really the ones we focus on is that idea of calcium, a little bit of iron, and again, they have that positive charge, which is going to interact with our herbicides.
Yep. So my well, when I was growing up, was out of a limestone.
Yep.
Higher pH, but it was soft. Like, it was extremely soft, almost slimy.
Yep.
What do I got to do for that?
Yep. So if you're going to be on that side of it, you'd still want to see what your total calcium dissolved is, or your calcium carbonate that's going to be in there. Because even if you have that calcium carbonate, and some of our water tests will show that, again, once it's in that solution, it's going to interact with those weak acid herbicides. And once it interacts with that, it'll either precipitate it out as a salt, or it binds it up, and our plants just can't take it up efficiently.
So tell me this, if this is an important factor and we're adding something to the tank, why don't we just fix the water before it goes into the tank? Why don't we put like a reverse osmosis system, or we put a water softener? I mean, can you do that before you put it in the tank?
I'm not saying you can't, but I would say your cost and then your flow. I mean, if you're running through a reverse osmosis or trying to run through a water softener, I mean, I think that you would have such a large cost and slow flow rate
your
that
efficiency
you'd be
would be
irritated
so
with
low.
it.
Your time would be the issue.
Yeah.
What is the ideal source, or what the numbers that you're looking for? If you could pick what you want.
So you're talking in terms of pH or hardness?
I'm going to go everything. I want to go fill
What's
my
the perfect
sprayer.
water?
He's going to go shopping for water.
Yeah, I got $20 million, and I want to buy a farm, and I want to go to the best place for spraying.
Okay. So most of our herbicides that we're applying are weak acid herbicides, and along with our insecticides and fungicides, they all want a pH to be 5.5 to 6.5.
So you want a lower pH.
You want a lower pH for 90% plus of what we're using.
Yep.
Okay.
Most of I haven't seen any low pH waters. If you could find that, that'd be great.
Yep.
And then the other thing is just eliminating a lot of those positively charged cations that are your calciums, your irons, your magnesiums. If you can find water that doesn't have that, that'd be great. The nice thing is we don't really have that situation, but it's not a big deal to take care of it. It's so affordable to take care of it. People just don't know why they're doing it or if they even need to. It's really not a big deal. If you just know to do it, you do it right away, and it's taken care of. It's an easy solution to take.
I mean, what kind of effectiveness? I mean, obviously, if you put Roundup in a tank and you don't put AMS in, you're going to kill some weeds, right? But like, is it 20% better if you get it down to the right pH, or what? I mean, have you seen some university trials on that, John?
Yeah, so there's a lot of data that's out there. Purdue's put out some great stuff. Ohio State's put out stuff. Iowa State. I mean, some of the values range 30% plus increase in efficacy. And it's not just due to the hard water side, right? We like to focus on, we melt our AMS down in water, the sulfate binds that hard water cation and it falls out.
Yeah.
The part we aren't thinking about is, remember that ammonium, that positive charge, it's still left in the water. And it will actually combine with most of our herbicides. And our plants love to take nitrogen up. So now all of a sudden we increase the efficacy of our take-up because the ammonium was associated with it. So it actually gives us the best of both worlds.
Yeah, the herbicide kind of rides along with that ammonium into the plant.
I wonder how much this topic has to do with resistance to herbicides because people weren't treating it correctly, and basically the effectiveness wasn't as good in just building that resistance up in plants.
I think it's not going to take care of all of it, but I do believe there's a decent amount that if we were to take care of the water quality and take care of our pH, and we can talk about half-lives here in a minute, that you're going to have so much more active ingredient that you're going to see a pretty good response.
Yep.
And what I like to ask people, and Caden, I'll put you on the spot, you think about a post-pass, I mean, how many dollars per acre are you talking on your post-pass in terms of hard chemistry?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of guys are spending $20 to $30 pretty easily post, depending on if you've got a dicamba-based product in the tank. But yeah, I mean, and for what ammonium sulfate or any liquid AMS costs, it's such a small fraction compared to the investment you're putting out there with all your chemistries.
Yep.
What if I'm just spraying a pre and I'm not trying to kill any weeds? Does that matter?
So on the pre side, I mean, you'll have some interaction. You actually have to pay attention to your labels, though, because there are some labels on your pre, whether the corn has emerged, how tall it's going to be, that you actually can either run AMS with it or not run AMS with it. So I always go back to labels of law. We do want to be careful of those, and it's why we don't want to speak real general about that. But if you're not trying to kill anything, your half-life still is incredibly important, which is your pH. But in terms of the uptake, right, we're thinking residual, we're thinking water activation. That part is not as heavily impacted as these weak acid post chemistries are.
Okay.
Is there any way to flip the positive and negatively charged stuff with electricity or magnets or?
So I've seen a cool thing. Not gonna lie, I was up in Wisconsin, Suzanne, and they had a helicopter pilot up there that had the magnets. I've never personally done it, but they talked about it.
Okay. When you say positive, negative, it made me think of.
So we talked about the water, pH, hardness. We're getting rid of that or helping that with AMS. You guys have liquid
AMS is your hardness, right? We have to get to our acidity yet.
Okay. So how are we combating the pH problem?
Yep. So the pH problem, right? We think about the acidification. So neutral is 7. And let's be honest, most of us think our well water is 7.
Yeah.
And reality is almost nothing is.
No. Everything's, we have a little digital water tester that I carry around in my pickup. I haven't tested anything lower than 7.4. Most of it's been 7.7 to 8.1, 8.2. All across state of Nebraska.
But Body Armor wants us to drink that 9 pH alkali stuff. What? Don't the plants want that?
That's right. And it's funny because a change of 1 pH doesn't seem like much, right? We go from a pH 7 to a pH 8.
Yeah.
We think it doesn't seem like much, but the problem is that the pH scale is logarithmic. So every change is actually a change of 10-fold. Yeah. So you go from 7 to 8, you've increased your pH 10-fold. And we want to be running 5 to 6. And so if you think you have to go from an 8 to a 7, there's a 10-fold. 7 to a 6 is a 100-fold. And 6 to a 5 is a 1,000-fold change.
Whoa.
So we have a 1,000-gallon spray tank, and you're telling me you have a product probably that can lower. How?
Yep.
I mean, in ounces or gallons.
And this is the great thing. Water doesn't buffer itself, right? Okay. So we want to change the pH of our soil. The soil can buffer itself, right? It has a buffering capacity. Water doesn't buffer itself, and so it takes a very little amount to actually change that pH. And we're talking...
So even though you need to make a big change, you don't...
16 ounces per 100 gallon of an acidifier.
What's the pH of that acidifier?
It's usually down in the 4s, so we have a couple of different ones. We have a very, very strong one that we run with a compatibility agent, and then we have one that if you're just running a Hagee or a deer sprayer over the field, that's what we'd be running in that one.
Do you remember the commercials that was a deodorant commercial that said it's built for a man but pH balanced for a woman? It makes me wonder, do different crops need different pH spray on them? Or is it generic for all crops?
It's all tied to the chemical.
Yeah, it's tied to the chemical.
It's more related to the chemistry. It has less to do with the crop itself and what the chemistry needs.
So it's not how it actually takes in the chemical?
Not the pH part.
Okay, fair enough.
So the pH part is a huge word called alkaline hydrolysis, which if you look at what lysis means just means to pull apart. So if you put a weak acid herbicide, some of our fungicides, a lot of our pesticides, they all want to be on that acidic side. You put it in and it starts ripping it apart. That's literally what happens. These OH molecules come in, start pulling it apart, and that's where we get in this idea of half-life.
Yep.
And so if we think about half-life, let's say that you mix up your tank mix, and that would be times 0. You have 100% of all the active ingredient you're ever going to have. A lot of these chemistries, whether it's your herbicides, your pesticides, as we move up to like an 8, like you were talking about, the half-life, instead of being at time 0, now every 8 to 24 hours, there's a few that are a little higher than that, you lose half your active ingredient. So let's just say that we have something with a half-life of 12 hours. At time 0, you have 100%. 12 hours later, you get rained out, right?
Yep.
We have something that breaks down. Half of your active ingredient is gone. 12 hours later, so 24 hours later, you're left with a quarter of your active ingredient.
Where's it go?
That's just ripping it apart.
Alkaline hydrolysis.
Sounds like we just need to get these acids in the gym and make them strong acids. Right? Like Dave.
Acids.
Right.
Okay, that's amazing. I don't think we've ever really talked about. We've always talked about adjuvants.
Yep.
We've always talked about AMS. No one really ever talks about lowering your pH.
No. And, I mean, when we think about what it does, again, you're talking 16 ounces per 100 gallon for most of the things, right? You get up in the 9s, you might need 24 ounces. It's such a small amount that we just haven't paid attention to it.
Let me be the devil's advocate for a second. Most of our listeners probably like, I've never worried about my water. I've sprayed for years. It works just fine.
Yep.
And
How
they're
much-
probably complaining about how weedy their fields are.
How much does this move the needle? Like, how is this the limiting factor? Like,
So I can tell you, like, specific to, like, pesticides. I'm going to use an example. I was with one of our agronomists down in Florida, I think it was 2 summers ago, and they were talking about up in an orchard that all of a sudden their pesticides were not working. And they thought that they had found an insect that developed 100% resistance almost in 1 year.
Which would be scary.
It would be extremely scary. And then they started looking at all this, and they brought in the reps, and they pulled a water sample, and their water sample was in the 8s. And then we went out and we got the name and we got the functional component of it, and we found that the half-life was like 8 hours. And so what had happened is they tank mixed it. I don't remember if they broke down the weather, whatever it was. They didn't get out of the tank for 3 or 4 days. They had a fraction of the active ingredient left in the tank. So I think that as we continue to have to struggle against weeds more, struggle against fungal diseases, these are those small details that make a huge return.
Yeah, and again, it's just such a small thing you can do, and just think about your farm. How many times does something happen? You break down, you get rained out, and that stuff sits in the tank for another day, and that half-life is at, let's say, 8 hours, and you wait 32, 48 hours to get back out there. That's been cut in half every 8 hours, and you're essentially down to just a few drops of that pint that you were using before. So you can be sitting there with a tank of nothing.
what if you mix multiple chemicals together and you're spraying, you want a single pass, and so we're putting multiple stuff together? I think a pharmacy, we have lots of different drugs at the same time. The pharmacist normally knows that they all work well together. Is there something we should be concerned about when we're mixing chemicals? Could that change pH? Could that change what you're talking about, acidity and alkalinity?
I think most of our herbicides are weak acid herbicides, so I think they're all pretty similar in that respect. The only thing I see a lot of guys use is some of these acidifiers are also compatibility agents, so they just let those herbicides and pesticides play together pretty well.
Okay.
The longer they sit in the tank, nothing good's going to happen, you know. So, I mean, that's where you go back to your mixing order, make sure you're putting in.
Yeah, you said Wales Dales earlier.
Yeah.
Not whale tails.
I thought I heard him correctly. What's Wales Dales?
So Wales Dales, you had your water, AMS, L stands for liquid, I think, and then you've got E would be your most valuable concentrates, and then S is surfactants.
Your mixing
oils.
order.
Yep. So it's important, and there's a lot of guys that don't do that, and they get lucky a lot of the times, and then you'll get a guy that calls and says it turned to cottage cheese.
It's not.
It's not good.
It's not good.
It's not good.
No, so just following that makes a big difference. Because if you don't follow that, that can cause problems with your herbicides getting all screwed up as well.
You should always jar test.
And to go along with that AMS, right, we want to put our acidifier in up front as well.
Yeah, you treat the solution first.
Yep.
You always take care of that water problem first, and then you start adding your products.
What if we dump too much acidifier in it? Can you be too low of a pH?
No, so one of the nice things about the products that we have is I call them they're John-proof. So we were actually doing a demonstration. Somebody asked me that, and we dumped in, we had a gallon of water and a gallon of acidifier, right? So our pH is set at a specific level that it keeps me from completely screwing stuff up.
Like you said, it's at a 4 or a 5, whatever
So that's
it is.
as low as you're going to go.
It'll never go any lower than that.
Nope.
Because it would have to be 100% that.
Yeah.
Right.
Can you not just put some acidifier in with some of your adjuvants, like pre-package it?
So there can be, and actually, like when you look at our Fuse product, we have NIS that's incorporated in with that.
Okay.
But you're talking in some of the herbicides.
Or that too, yeah,
Yeah,
because
so-
a lot of herbicides have pre-packaged adjuvants in it, right?
And what's an NIS?
Non-ionic.
Non-ionic surfactant.
Okay.
So
Got it.
We'll get
if you
to
take
that.
a water, oh, never mind. I was getting ahead.
We'll get to that.
This stuff's too much fun.
We're still on water. We do need to put water to bed. I got two questions left on it. Is there certain chemicals that are like prima donnas, and it's like I would absolutely lower the pH of Liberty or whatever?
Yep.
Is there?
Yeah. So like Caden's brought up, almost all of your weak acid post herbicides, but there's a couple we really want to pay attention to, right? The first one is our Liberty, our glufosinate, right? And we want to pay attention to that for a couple of reasons. First of all, we want to drop that pH. The second part, though, is with the AMS. When we think about glufosinates and Liberty, how do they actually kill a plant? They kill it by ammonia toxicity. So if we add AMS to it, what are we adding to that? We're adding to it what's helping kill that plant.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think it's really important that we add it with things like our Liberty application.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and then with that, glyphosates, clethodems, those are the really big ones that you can screw up pretty easily if you don't have AMS in the tank. But most of them are weak. I don't know if we use anything that's not a weak acid herbicide on our farm.
Yep.
So
They're common. I mean, if you were to look at your lists and go down, it's the majority of what you put in your tank.
Yeah. My last one on the water is I'm guessing we should get a test
Yep.
to know how much we should be putting in.
Yep. So really simple. I mean, like Caden said, we all have actually digital pH meters, so we can come up and actually measure it for you. We have test strips that will tell us the hardness. You want to spend $20 and send it off to a local state lab, they'll give you the entire breakdown of your water test. And I tell people when you first get started, pull a couple per year. But like where I am, we're almost perfectly constant all year long.
I wondered if it changed. Like if you started with your pre, is it different by the time you make your post, and then different by the time you get to your fungicide? Like does the rain amount matter?
I mean, if it's a well, you're probably pretty consistent. But like if you're pulling out of a river,
right,
right,
sure.
that
It
would
depends
change.
on your water source.
Yeah, that would definitely change, or a canal, or something like that. So,
and we don't want to pull water out of town because I know there's some guys that'll go in the towns.
Well,
fire
we spray
department's
with rural water.
Okay.
Now, so
You just have to pay attention
you
if it's
just gotta know what it
chlorinated.
is.
Yep.
and that could be a problem for like if you had biological.
Yes.
Correct.
Inside of it.
Oh.
So yeah, because it's a living.
That's what it's in there for, right?
Right. Yeah. So now let's get into the water conditioning side.
Okay.
So you talked about hard water. Now we want to make it wetter, right? So Dave asked about non-ionic surfactants.
Wait. You want to make water wetter?
Yeah.
You want wetter water?
Not hard water.
Well, soft is the opposite of hard, not
Yeah.
wetter.
Yeah.
You
We don't
wetter
want
water?
hard water, and we want it wetter.
What?
Water wetter.
Is he
That sounds like
saying
an
the right
auctioneer
thing?
thing coming, Dave. So
You want the
what do we-
wettest? You want the
yeah.
wettest of waters?
That's right. I mean, what more can we ask for?
So we got our hardness
Seems
taken
easy.
care of. We got
This
our
is pretty
pH.
wet.
We got our pH down. Now we're looking at stuff that we're adding to the water to make it the herbicides work better, right? So what are those?
Yeah. So the first one we usually talk about is NIS.
Yep.
Right.
Non-ionic
Non-ionic surfactant.
Got it.
And if we were to take your water right there, and if you had a leaf or a piece of waxy paper, or if you had a styrofoam plate,
Yep.
and you just take a drop of water and you put it on there, it forms this nice big round circle.
Yep.
Well, what's the problem with that? We don't have much leaf area contact.
Surface area.
How's our herbicide getting in? Surface area. So what we do, see, I'm not lying to you.
I didn't say you were. I'm easily entertained.
So this is the thing. We have to figure out how do we spread that out, right? How do we get more surface area to it?
That's how you spread it out.
Slap it.
Doesn't our nozzle body do that though? I mean, puts it in
Droplet
droplet
size.
size.
So it puts it in
Droplet
droplet
size.
size.
I
but-
mean-
yep. So that helps, right?
Yep.
Because we're getting more surface area because we're talking about microns.
Yep, more droplets, smaller droplets. But all those little droplets are still just touching that leaf right at the bottom of that droplet.
Okay.
The whole idea is you want to get that thing flattened out.
So you
don't
want
this
wetter,
big-
flatter water.
Can you get it too wet though, and then it just slides right off? It gets too slippery.
Slippery water?
Yeah.
It's getting deep now.
Yeah.
But that's what an NIS does. So if we kind of think about that round droplet, right? And if you guys want to do this, you could do it, just put a little bit of blue dye in some water, drop it on a styrofoam plate, and it'll form a perfect circle. Then go take your NIS, right, and put your NIS in there. We're only talking, right, 0.25%, 0.5%, right, of NIS in our tank. And what happens is that droplet of water, the NIS actually penetrates the outside, breaks the surface tension, and your droplet of water goes flat.
Yep.
And if you want to prove to yourself the importance of running the right adjuvant like an NIS, this is one of the best ways to do it to yourself. You've taken care of your hard water. You took care of your pH. Now let's figure out how we can maximize the coverage so that we can get the herbicide into the plant.
Yeah. And these are stuff that are on their label. Like the label's really probably not saying you need to put 16 ounces of acidifier in.
No.
Right? We just know that. But you said the first thing you guys think about is NIS. The first thing I think about is just crop oil.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? Like that's like the generic, everyone knows you add crop oil,
Yep.
right? So let's go to that. What does that do?
Definitely.
So I always look at the labels because some of them are going to call for a crop oil, some of them are going to call for an NIS, some of them call for both, some of them call for AMS.
MSO.
MSO.
Yep.
Yeah, I
COCs,
mean,
right? All sorts
your
of
sharpens
abbreviations.
call for MSOs.
It's worse than crop insurance.
That's right.
Yeah, so when I think of the oils, I'm thinking of deposition, sticking. It kind of, in my mind, heats that product
So
up
now
a
you
little
made it
bit.
too wet. Now you got to make it stick.
Yeah, well, a lot of these products are
Where it slides off.
spreaders, stickers, wetting agents, you know.
Yeah.
But when I think of oils, I'm thinking of heating up that product, getting that into the canopy, that deposition type agent, and now we're sticking to the plant.
Like breaking down that waxy cuticle
Yep.
of the plant leaf to
Yep.
get in.
Right,
Yes.
because the plant's built to defend itself against what we're trying to put on there.
Yeah.
Right, and so especially when we think a little bit later in the season, right, it's been hot and dry, we've got hardened cuticles.
Yeah, we're hardening
It becomes really important that we pay attention to what we're putting in because you can have done everything else right, but if you don't penetrate that thick, waxy cuticle,
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
we're not doing any good. So I love what Caden said. We can think about it heating it up, right, in terms of helping us penetrate through there.
And now, a message from our friends from Brandt Agriculture Products.
The Brandt high-speed disc is built to manage residue, prepare seed beds, and level ruts in the toughest of conditions.
With sealed disc hubs and minimal maintenance, it's designed to get the job done right. Plus, you get your choice of disc blades and finishing options to match your fields.
And now it's backed by Brandt's new 4-year warranty on those disc hubs and a 5-year warranty on the frame structure. That's confidence you can count on.
Talk to your local Brandt dealer or visit brandt.ca to learn more.
I've heard put a little bit of diesel fuel in the mix and makes it
Who told you that?
my neighbor.
Well, technically, diesel
I'm sure
fuel
that's on label.
could be a vegetable oil, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, what are these oils coming from? And is there different? I mean, there's soybean oil,
Yeah,
there's corn oil.
soybean,
there's-
Cottonseed.
Cottonseed.
What's the best?
You know, your MSO is usually a soybean oil.
Yeah.
We have a cottonseed oil
Yep.
that's highly refined cottonseed oil, and that's just a really good quality, really hot,
Yeah.
lower use rate.
Yep.
So it just depends. Your standard crop oils, I'm not even sure if I know what they're made of, but I know our cottonseed oil is kind of a lower use rate just because of the quality of it.
Yeah, it seems like, I mean, I buy my crop oil from you guys, and it's like, well, this one's double
Yep.
the, you know, you
Yeah.
can use half the rate or
Yep.
whatever.
And some of that comes into, some of the chemistries that we can use. So you can talk about throwing in like a silicone type base, which is actually going to enhance the spread, and then you look at the penetration, enhances that as well. And so it's important when you start looking at these other products that it's great that people can come out and say use a half rate, but it also boils down to seeing what they're making it from
Yeah.
and why they've done that. Because if you don't have it, it's not going to increase what you're already doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what, I mean, I feel like I said earlier, like it was always crop oil, but then all these different herbicide mixes and all that, now this NIS has come in, and MSO, like when should I use which one?
Yep.
Read the label.
Yep.
I mean, that's, I read labels all the time, and
For fun?
Can't you just tell me?
yeah, I do. But so I can tell other people because they don't like doing that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just have to read the label. Different chemistries have different needs.
Like what's an MSO doing that an NIS isn't?
So your MSO is needed. So like a sharpen type of product. Anytime you have a sharpen type of product, you have to have an MSO in the tank.
Yep.
That sharpen needs MSO to function within the plant.